So before you take it off, make sure you know right where your waist is. Use your cross marks for your dart. And then here on the side seam, have a cross mark for the side seam on both pieces where they come together. And, dot your fold in place. And so when they come apart, you want to make sure you have all these marks, right? So when you go to the flat pattern. The other thing you want to double check on your length is that these are the same. So you want to measure from the bottom to the bottom of the hem. So it looks like I'm a little bit higher here. You would take your ruler and get those measurements, okay? And then you're ready. Make sure you got the bottom of your dart marked. You're ready to remove it. So if you have a specific length that you want, like say you're doing this for a model and you know what the length is, you would measure your side seam for that length, and then from the waist down, that length would be consistent. So I'll take these off.
Could we do that in the patterning stage, or it's technically for the design?
Yeah, like let's say you wanted it to be, ankle length at 40 inches. You wouldn't necessarily have to drape it unless you want that visual for yourself to save on muslin. You would just continue the A, and it would get much wider, right? Because as you go longer, it gets wider. Okay, and I'm just removing all my pins. All right, so taking this to the paper now, so I can see here too. I can see if my my hem is, a nice shape through here, right? So, okay, so now I'm ready to use my pattern paper. I like to use the manufactured edge to keep my line straight. I can pin that on. So to keep this crease. Now really with a simple A-line like this, your flat pattern is going to be more useful, faster, right? But if I did want to start draping in pleats or doing other things, then this look is going to give me a much faster result. Now I bring up my dart. May I borrow your ruler? I didn't take mine out yet today. Thanks. Again, on the muslin, squaring this and then following my dots and my dart notches, marking those. And then here, because I have this fold, I've got to add my seam allowance to that point, right, on the pattern. Okay, as far as the muslin here goes, I can go ahead and add.
I thought we were doing facing.
Oh, but we still, yes, thank you, Maddie. Thank you. 1/4 inch, because it's going to be a facing piece. Yeah. Okay, and then I will then the other thing you can do, this is small enough, I can use the red ruler to get it. So from the waist, I want my hem length to be the same. So we did it from the form, right, to get a start, but we want to double check that. So right here, I'm at 17.5. Then I'm going to come over a couple inches, measure 17.5 from that point. side of the dart, get the 17.5. Again, I'm already there. And see, now I'm not going up enough. Do you see it? So I've got to bring that up a little bit more to get that 17.5. And again, this line should be straight, right? There might be a little bit of curve on the hip if your form is more curvy, but the 17.5 is there. Okay, so then I can keep that line straight, and then from this point, because this is the cross mark where my waist was, I'm gonna add that 1/2 inch. And then depending on the hem allowance that you want, that one was a little bit too long. So it's kind of a gentle curve, not too much. So you use the straighter part of this tool to help you. So I always like to draw my lines first and then let the tool clean it, okay? So depending on, again, the hem allowance you want, if you want a 1-inch hem, you know, if you've ever sewn hems on curved edges, they tend to need to be eased in. So we always use, because we use a lot of cotton fabrics, we always just use small hems, 1/2 inch hems doubled up, so it's 1/4 and 1/4, right? So I'm gonna just add a 1/2 inch. If you wanted to do an inch hem, you could, but it would be harder to sew if it's a production item. So your 1/2 inch all the way around there. Okay, and whoops, I took this off too soon. And then this is my seam allowance for 1/4 inch. Okay, so so this is what you would see in a hard pattern. If you want to draw the dart, you can, as long as you have the punch hole and the notches. That's what the seamstress sees. And I haven't added my 1/4 inch to this yet. Or did I?
You did.
I did, okay.
So you gotta go quarter below
I'll
that.
keep doing it. Okay, so this is my cutting line for the paper then. Okay, make sure this is square. If you, fold this dart in to get your dart shape towards center front, and turn through that. Okay, so that's that shape. All right, so that is my back piece. So here, if this is going to be on the fold, because I didn't do an extension, this is going to be on the fold, center back. And this was page 128 or 140? 140. A-line, center back, cut 1 self. And what I'm going to do in this case, since this is on the fold, I need a side zipper. So I'm going to do that 7 inches down for a side zipper. And I usually do this on my patterns. My manual patterns, I write the words so they know. Then on the front, we can balance the muslin, and you can clean up your muslin the same way and transfer it, or you can do it the way I did it. But it's just a matter of of your preference in terms of allowing. If you, sometimes on this style, we ran out of seam allowance, so sometimes I do it to the paper first, because I've seen students sometimes get a little short on seam allowance. Either method is fine. But if I were going to do it first, you know, I would draw in, I've got this nice fold, and then I can add my seam here, and then I can take this front piece and do the same thing, add my and draw my line in, get my folded piece here, do my 1/2 inch seam, or 1/4 inch seam for the facing, 1/2 inch if it's a waistband. You can tell what we do mostly. Waistbands. Okay, and then with that closed, you can cut it, and then that way you get your dart shape at the same time. And if I want to true this up with the muslin, I can put them together like that, and then continue with that 17.5 from the waist down. Sometimes there's a, and maybe you heard this in pattern making, it's more graceful if your center back is just a 1/2 inch longer than the center front. So if you wanted to go like 17 from the waist here, 17.5, 17.5, and maybe on this one I would just go 17.25, because the waist is already a little bit higher in the front. So 17.25, and then half like that. So it's just slightly longer as you go toward the back. It depends on the person's body type. So if they have a bigger back here, you want the back longer to allow for that. If they're bigger on the tummy, then you do the opposite. Okay, so yeah, so I would transfer these same measurements, double check my notches here, side seam. And then for those of you, if you haven't had enough pattern making yet, in order to do the facing for the skirt, and I do need a full muslin sewn with a zipper, so it could be on the side, or you could add the seam allowance to the back. And then your facing piece, you make the facing piece with the dart closed. So you close up your dart, and the same with front and back would be the same thing. And then you would trace that off. So once you have your pattern, then trace that off with the seam included. Usually about 3 inches is a good amount. And this is on the fold, and then we have the side seam for the zipper. All right, front and back is the same steps. Okay, so this is, the homework is to turn in the pattern with a pattern card. I have extra cards there. If you need more, I have some, I think, in my bag. And then next week, the full muslin on the form. And we're gonna do the same thing this afternoon with the